Greetings, my friends! I am Corey from Super Kami Guru 9000, the best damn anime reviews on YouTube. And welcome to my review of this week's brand new episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. An episode which is focused on the relationship between Boruto and Mitsuki, not to mention seeing how much of a big impact Boruto has on all of his friends. But of course, the biggest thing about this episode is that we get to learn the true identity of who is behind the ghost incident. They don't outright say it in this week's episode, but eagle-eyed viewers will certainly be able to learn who the true culprit is by the end of this week's episode. But before I go any further, you guys are probably asking yourselves, Corey, where the hell are you? You're not at your house. You're certainly not in your studio. I'm actually out of town this week. I've been working on this documentary series, which I've been traveling for the last couple of months, and this week has been so much freaking fun. I've been to Los Angeles. I got to go to Venice Beach. I got to go to Hollywood. Right now, I'm currently in Idaho Falls, Idaho, which, while it might not sound all that exciting, holy shit, Idaho is freaking beautiful. It's got some of the most beautiful mountainscapes I've ever seen. We saw geysers today. We saw these amazing waterfalls. I have a lot of other stories that I'll share with you guys on our weekly podcast show, which, if you haven't listened to that yet, I highly recommend you do so. You can also download it for free. But enough of that weird endorsement. Let's go ahead and move on to this review, which, yes, is not as well lit. It's kind of a ramshackle thing that I have going on here, but I still wanted to talk about this week's episode of Boruto, which, for most people, I feel is probably going to be an uneventful episode because really not that much happens. Basically, it's just more of this like character study of Mitsuki becoming even more enamored with Boruto, his lifestyle, his relationship with his friends and his family, and basically trying to see like why everybody is so obsessed with him in the first place. And the obvious answer is he's the son of the Hokage. Of course, he's going to be very famous, but one of the things that I think is most important about this episode, and of course for the first half of the Boruto anime series, is that they're doing a really great job of letting the viewer see that Boruto is nothing like his father. They have a lot of things in common, of course, you know, their physical attributes, the fact that they use clone abilities, the fact that they both seem to have a great influence on people, but there's still something so different about these two characters that I find really fascinating. One, I love that in the first half of the Naruto series, Naruto's entire goal was to be acknowledged by everyone, to become the Hokage, and that's because he didn't have a family himself. He wanted everyone else to become his family, and then finally when he has his very own and becomes the Hokage, he no longer has time for them, but he has time for the entire village, who he still considers his giant family. But his son Boruto does not see it this way at all. He feels that his father is basically abandoning the family, not being with them, missing important social events, not even showing up for dinner. And that's definitely one of the biggest things about these two characters, is how there's this massive rift which being formed between the two, with Boruto wanting to be recognized as being a strong ninja, while at the same time still wanting to have a strong relationship with his father, but also not wanting to be recognized simply because he's the son of the Hokage. And that brings a lot of surprising depth to his character. That, and I love that this entire episode was basically just like Mitsuki paying attention to Boruto's lifestyle, how he interacts with his family, his friends, and sort of reflecting on why he is in many ways the exact opposite of Boruto in many senses. Now, it's no shock to people like who Mitsuki's father actually is, his parent, as he actually says, because this is something that's been brought up in the movies, in the manga, so it's not really a mystery out there, and if you get spoiled by what I'm about to say, well, I'm just very sorry, and if it isn't obvious enough, I mean, he's clearly the son of Orochimaru, who is also heavily involved with this ghost incident-like thing that's going on in Konoha Village. Not directly, I would say. In fact, I think it's heavily hinted that one of the students in Boruto's class is actually behind this ghost incident, and I believe it's none other than Sumire herself. Yes, the class rep. There's been enough evidence to show that she is indeed the one who's behind all of these events, or at least indirectly involved. A lot of that being that the last time we saw this masked figure in the previous episode, they were completely covered with bandages, almost as like something that someone would have if they were at the hospital. That's where Sumire was. Not to mention, Sumire has a very dark and tragic backstory. The fact that she apparently has no family that all died. We even get a small flashback of her and her mother, which is very ominous and strange. She does not mention her mother either when she's talking to Mitsuki in this week's episode. In fact, I think one of the biggest scenes from this one is when Mitsuki actually decides to go and visit her in the hospital, mostly because he's trying to learn a little bit more about Boruto and why he wants to know why Boruto causes her so much stress in the first place. And she talks about the fact that her family is dead, she has no one left, and she just wishes that this entire incident could be done with. And during this little small flashback sequence with her and her mother, which is creepy as all hell, it just goes by really fast, you don't really have anything you can take from that, aside from some small little bits of imagery that hint at the fact that maybe she was being influenced by this dark and ghostly chakra. That and the fact that apparently it's going to have some sort of connection to the original foundation, the Anbu. In fact, at the very beginning of the episode, Mitsuki brings up Gozu Tenno, and apparently this is some guy who's going to have some sort of connection to the brand new Nue thing, which apparently is going to make its appearance in next week's episode. They're throwing all this stuff at us and barely giving us any information, but I'm very intrigued to see how Sumire is going to be involved in all of this, because at the very end of the episode, it looks like Mitsuki is about to finally spill his guts and tell Boruto about who the actual person is who's behind all of these incidents, and as soon as that happens, we get a shot of Sumire's hospital room, which is now completely empty with the window open, showing that she has made a quick escape. And in the next week's episode, shit is going to pop off, because you get to see that a giant monster of some sort is going to be attacking Konoha Village, which at this point does not sound shocking because it happens all the freaking time. It's like freaking Godzilla going to visit Tokyo. It's just a normal thing for Konoha Village. So I really can't wait to see how Boruto and Mitsuki are going to actually stop this threat from happening, how it's going to be connected to Sumire, and of course, how all of this is going to tie into Mitsuki actually being in the village and having some sort of a connection to Orochimaru, because even Naruto's a little wary of Mitsuki at first, and a lot of that is, of course, because he's a very hard character to read. He always has a big smile on his face, but that's just sort of what I'm guessing he's inferred to do. That and the fact that he himself just seems really happy all the time of being around Boruto, and he himself even seems a little confused as to why he seems to gravitate towards him so much, and that's, of course, because Boruto is such an influential and nice guy. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? Sumire is without a doubt connected to the Ghost Chakra incident. A couple of theories come to mind. One, she mentions that her parents were killed, or they're dead. You know, she mentioned her father, but nothing about her mother, despite the fact that we did see a flashback with her. My guess is her parents could have actually been former members of the Foundation, and they left her this heirloom, this ability which allowed her to use this ghost chakra probably without even her knowing or the ability to fully control it. And I'm not sure what this ability was and what it actually had to do with the Foundation, but if there's anything we know from the past of Naruto, it's that the Foundation members were not exactly the nicest of people and go about doing things in a really shadowy and weird way. So I can't wait to see how this is all going to connect, especially with Mitsuki's story, which basically took up the bulk of this week's episode, which, like I said, I didn't think was a bad thing. I do like that they're actually showing why Boruto is such a really great character and why he's going to end up turning into such a fantastic hero. Not to mention delving a little bit more into some of his daddy issues, which are definitely going to be the backbone, I think, of the first couple arcs of the series before him and his father start to have a little bit of a reconciliation. The good thing is, this was a pretty good-looking episode, which is continuing to be a great showcase for the series. I know a lot of people are not really gelling with how the story's moving at a very slow pace, but honestly, I found myself getting really sucked into this week's episode, especially because we were sort of seeing the world through Mitsuki's eyes throughout the entire one, and I think this is one of those episodes that I really wish should have been more at the beginning of the series, but still, I can't fault it for that entirely. We also got some pretty cool ninja action at the beginning of the episode with all of our favorite new characters going through a lot of training sequences, and we even got to see some cameos from characters such as Konohamaru, not to mention his old teammate Mogi. She was there as well, and and it was just really great to see some more of that teamwork dynamic with Boruto trying to help out Denki, who is becoming a much more competent ninja, which I think is really great for his character. But there's a scene where he tries to help him out as they're trying to climb over this giant wooden wall. He ends up not getting able to help out, but then Mitsuki, who has just all of a sudden been influenced by Boruto, decides to help him out, despite the fact that they all end up losing in this big training exercise. It's just really, really great to see like how much of an influence that he's had on all of these characters, and even the ones who don't really like him all that much, like Inojin, who mostly comes across as like a real big asshole. He even has to admit that there's something about Boruto that just draws people to him, and a lot of that just has to do with his just outstanding and really fun personality, and the fact that he just doesn't give a shit when anyone thinks. He just does his own thing, and I think that's really damn cool. So this was a solid addition to the series, despite the fact that it might be a little slow for some viewers, and I so know that everybody wants answers immediately, but I liked this one a lot right here. I had no complaints with it, aside from that it was a little slow, and that's why I am going to drop it down just a tad. Otherwise, I thought this was another solid addition to the Naruto mythos, not to mention more great stuff going on for Boruto's story, so check it out, guys. I highly recommend it. I'm giving this week's episode a 4 out of 5, and you should definitely check it out. If any of you did watch the episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more awesome Boruto anime and manga reviews. Make sure to also like this video. I'd really appreciate it. It's super easy to do and it helps out our videos a ton. I will see you guys next time. Take care, and as always, stay damn, baby.